Joining us now, Justin Safey, a former Jeb Bush spokesperson, and Richard Socarides, a Democratic consultant and former advisor to President Clinton. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us. Justin, let me begin with you here. What do we see in this context of what the president is saying? Is it too much for Congress to handle to get something done about immigration reform?
Well, quite frankly, I find that very surprising that President Obama would say that. He's shown no reluctance in the past to push his fellow Democrats in Congress on very controversial issues like the stimulus package, bailouts, obviously the health care reform bill. He's taken the opportunity in the past to talk about teachable moments. It's really hard to understand how he can see the demonstrations that are going on today. He can see the reaction to the Arizona law itself and what it represents about the failure of the federal government to protect the borders, and simply shrug his shoulders and say, well, I guess Congress doesn't want to do this, so we're not going to be able to do it this year. It's hard to understand.
Richard, what do you think the president is doing, shrugging his shoulders? He did say at the onset that he felt that this law that Arizona has enacted was misguided.
Well, I certainly don't think he was shrugging his shoulders. I think that his comments reflect the reality that this is clearly one of the most difficult political issues today in America. I mean, just ask President George W. Bush, who a couple years ago had what seemed to be a very moderate and realistic proposed solution, which included a path to citizenship, but got shot down by his own party because it seemed because it gave people a way to become citizens who were here in this country illegally. That's been the sticking point. But I think right now, clearly, the Republicans on this issue face a much bigger hurdle as they go from being perceived as the party of no to the party of perhaps where are your papers. I mean, this Arizona bill that was pushed through by the Republicans in Arizona has really created a firestorm. But I would agree with Justin that now is the time for presidential leadership. Now is the time for leadership in Congress. We can and should solve this problem that is so difficult for so many people.
On that note, let me ask you, we were just talking to Nicole Collins, our reporter out of Washington. She was indicating that the Democrats had come up with a plan that they were hoping the Republicans could get behind so they could have some bipartisan support to get something done on immigration reform. Justin, what would the Republicans and Democrats need to agree on to get this enacted?
Well, again, I think they need presidential leadership. President Obama's tried to say that he wants to do things in a bipartisan approach. Where's the presidential leadership to bring Republicans and Democrats together the same way that President Bush bravely did? I wish President Obama would have the same bravery that President Bush had and demonstrated, working with the late Senator Ed Kennedy, a liberal member of the Senate, and John McCain, a Republican member of the Senate, to address this issue. That's what's needed. That's what's lacking.
All right, Richard, final word.
Well, I would agree. I think that if we could agree to come together around something like that included a lot of what President Bush suggested several years ago, I think a lot of the Democrats could come together on that. I think the problem right now is with the Republicans in Congress who don't want to tackle that. But listen, if the Republicans ever want to be in a position to win a national election again, they cannot do it without Latinos. So they are going to need to come together with Democrats around this and find a solution for the country, because people, you see these overwhelming numbers in the polls of people who are very concerned with this issue, and rightly so.
Richard Socarides and Justin Safey, thank you very much. Safey, I'm sorry about that, Justin. Thank you very much for joining us today.